Welcome back to Zenith One. You know I love a good mystery, and we've got a real head-scratcher for you all today. The Mandela Effect. It's this crazy thing where, like, a ton of people remember stuff, differently than how it actually went down, like, in history books and stuff.
It is really interesting how many people experience these differences.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking thousands, sometimes even millions of people sharing the same, like, false memory. It's definitely not just like a handful of random cases.
Exactly. I mean, like, okay, sure, one person maybe thinks Nelson Mandela died in prison back in the 80s, but what if it's a bunch of people? It really makes you wonder, what's the deal? Are our brains just like messing with us, or is there something else going on? Something way weirder?
Well, let's start by thinking about the brain. You can think of memory like one of those Wikipedia pages. You can edit it. Other people can edit it. And over time, the original info might change a bit. Our brains are like always updating our memories based on new stuff we learn, our own biases, and sometimes even just, random chatter we hear.
So you're saying my memory is basically like a game of telephone. The more gets passed around, the more messed up the message gets.
Yeah, that's actually a great analogy. There's this memory researcher, Elizabeth Loftus, and she's done these experiments where she actually implanted fake memories in people. It's pretty wild how easy it is to do.
Well, okay, that is kind of creepy. But what about when a whole bunch of people remember something wrong? Like the Berenstein Bears? It's not like one person made that up and then just told everyone else.
Right. That's where this whole groupthink thing comes in. So if an idea spreads enough, especially online, it can basically become everyone's reality, even if it's wrong. Think about all that fake news on social media that spreads super fast.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing. One person gets something wrong, shares it, and then boom, it's everywhere.
So it's like our brains are like computers and these wrong memories are like viruses.
Oh.
Okay, that's both scary and makes a ton of sense. But what about the folks who think this Mandela effect is proof that parallel universes are real? Are they just going too deep into those weird internet theories?
Not necessarily. Quantum physics is super weird, and some of the theories about it are pretty mind-blowing. One of them is the many worlds interpretation, or MWI for short.
Wait, is that the one where every decision you make creates a new universe? So there's a universe out there where I had waffles for breakfast instead of cereal?
Exactly. This MWI idea suggests that every time something happens in the quantum world, the universe splits and creates a bunch of new parallel worlds where every possibility actually plays out.
Okay, now my brain is starting to hurt.
Yeah.
So how does that connect to this Mandela effect thing? Are people somehow seeing into these other universes and getting their memories all mixed up?
There are some theorists who think that what we call the Mandela effect could be what they call quantum bleed-through. Imagine if that these parallel universes can briefly intersect or even merge or just kind of bump into each other. It's pretty wild, right?
Yeah, it's more than wild. It's whoa. So those people who remember it as Berenstein, they're actually remembering it, right, just from a different universe.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy idea, right? Little pieces of memories from other realities somehow ending up in our minds.
Okay, yeah, my head's spinning a bit here.
Yeah.
So you're saying some of these Mandela effects could actually be glimpses into other universes where things are different. What if there's a universe out there where the Fruit of the Loom logo actually did have that cornucopia thing that everyone remembers?
Exactly. But we got to remember that these are just theories. Even in physics, the whole MWI thing is still being debated. It can get really complicated really fast.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
But hold on a sec. This isn't just about pop culture and stuff, right? People are saying they have these Mandela effects for big historical events too. Really important stuff.
You're totally right. That's actually one of the most interesting parts of all this. Think about the JFK assassination. Some people swear they remember seeing only 4 people in that car, but all the footage we have shows 6 ends.
Oh, yeah. And what about that tank man guy at Tiananmen Square? Didn't he get run over by the tanks?
Yeah.
But now all the videos just show him standing there in front of them.
If these memories are just our brains messing up, how come so many people have the same wrong memory about these huge historical things? It's like history itself is changing or something.
And that brings us to another crazy idea, the simulation hypothesis. What if we're all actually living in some kind of super advanced simulation, like a computer program made by some super smart beings? Think of it like a giant, really detailed video game.
Hold up. Are you trying to tell me that we're all just APCs in some Cosmic Sims game? Who's the one holding the controller then?
It's a pretty wild thought, right? But if you think about it, the Mandela effect could be glitches in the simulation. Imagine these programmers up there making changes and fixing stuff, and maybe they accidentally introduce some bugs, So those historical changes we talked about could be software updates. And that Berenstein spelling was just the typo in the code.
Huh?
And maybe someone just forgot to add the cornucopia to the Fruit of the Loom logo in the first version of the simulation.
It's definitely an interesting way to think about it. And It brings up some even crazier questions, like what if our memories aren't just our own, but actually part of the data in the simulated world? And what if someone is messing with that data on purpose, changing history, or even our own personal memories?
Whoa, okay, now we're getting into some serious Matrix stuff.
Yeah.
But if we really are living in a simulation, how would we even know? And more importantly, who are these programmers and why are they doing this to us?
Those are the big questions, right? And those questions take us beyond just science and into philosophy and even spirituality. Some spiritual traditions have always believed in things like multiple realities and alternate dimensions. And even the idea that our consciousness can actually affect reality.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that because honestly, the whole idea of us being some kind of science experiment is kind of freaking me out. I like the idea of cosmic consciousness and spiritual realms way better.
Well, think about this. What if the Mandela Effect is actually a sign that human consciousness is changing? Like a collective awakening or something. Maybe we're becoming more aware of all these different dimensions of reality. And those memory glitches are actually glimpses into other levels of existence.
So instead of being stuck in a simulation, we're actually evolving and expanding our awareness. That's a way more hopeful way to think about it for sure.
Totally. But even if we focus on those more spiritual explanations, we still can't forget about, the limits of our own brains.
You mean like good old memory errors? Like sometimes we just misremember things. It happens.
Exactly. Our brains are constantly filtering and sorting and reconstructing information. We fill in the blanks, make assumptions, and over time, our memories can get distorted. It's just part of being human.
But then how do we explain all those times when tons of people share the same wrong memory? That's where things get really weird, right?
That's where the Mandela Effect really pushes us to think outside the box. It makes us question what we think we know about the world and consider all the things we can't explain yet, and even think about the nature of reality itself.
Okay, so we've talked about memory glitches, parallel universes, simulated realities, and even spiritual awakenings. But what does it all mean for us? Like, how should we be thinking about this Mandela Effect in our everyday lives?
That's the big question, isn't it? I mean, if reality is less stable than we think, and our memories aren't always right, and if we can't even trust what we see and hear sometimes, yeah, it can be kind of unsettling.
Unsettling, that's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
It makes you question everything you know.
Yeah.
Like, what's even real anymore? What can we actually trust?
It definitely makes you rethink everything you thought you knew about the world, but I also think it's a good opportunity. The Mandela Effect makes us think more carefully and question things more,
So instead of just believing everything we hear, we should do our own research, think for ourselves, and maybe even trust our gut feelings more.
Exactly. It makes us more curious, makes us question things, and be open to the idea that there might be way more to reality than we realize.
Okay, I get that. But it also feels like a lot of responsibility. If we can't always trust experts or even our own memories, how are we supposed to figure out what's going on in the world?
It's a journey, not a destination. We're all always learning and changing and adapting to new info. The Mandela Effect is like a reminder that never really stops.
So what's the main takeaway here? What would you say to our listeners who are totally freaking out right now about the possibility that their whole reality could be fake?
First of all, don't panic. The universe is huge and mysterious, and we still don't understand most of it. Just embrace the mystery. And second, be curious. Don't be afraid to ask questions, explore different ideas, and even challenge your own beliefs. And third, be careful. Not everything you read or hear is true. Learn to really think about the information you come across. Look at different sources and develop your own sense of what feels right.
Okay, that's actually some pretty solid advice, even if you're not worried about parallel universes or living in a simulation. Being curious, questioning things, and thinking critically are good things no matter what.
Totally. And one last thing, remember that you're not alone. Tons of people have experienced the Mandela Effect, and it's something that people are still talking about and debating. So share your experiences, connect with others, and keep exploring this crazy phenomenon. Who knows what we might discover as we learn more about memory and reality.
Wow, that was intense. I started this episode thinking it was going to be about some funny misremembered logos, and now my brain is completely fried.
Yeah, it tends to do that to people. But remember, the real adventure is in the unknown.
I love that way of looking at it. Huge thanks to our expert for coming on the show today and talking about this mind-blowing stuff. And to all our listeners out there, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep those brains working. We'll see you next time on Zenith 1, where we dive into the abnormal, the paranormal, and the just plain ridiculous.